ride together, we die together. Bad boys for life. Get busy living, or get busy dying.
Gang first, last. Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Welcome to Brews and Reviews with Mick and Pat. I'm Mick.
And I'm Pat.
And each week we sit down with you degenerates to pretend we're certified cicerones and cinephiles.
That is right. So grab a cold one and join us as we review Boochcraft Organic Hard Kombucha and give our first takes of the HBOMAX series, The Last of Us.
And if you've been with us before, you know what time it is.
Release the Kraken!
Oh! it's foaming. That was we're ready for that.
It was like champagne.
Yeah. All right.
Look at me.
You're covered,
It's
dude.
on the face.
Oh my goodness, you got booched.
Be warned, folks. The Boochcraft Organic Hard Kombucha pops off when you crack that can. Holy smokes.
Here, you got some on your forehead.
I feel like I'm at an Akon concert.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm at an R. Kelly concert.
Wait, was R. Kelly the one who pissed on her?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I thought it was Akon. My bad.
Oh, that's all right. I thought you were just making a joke about being at a friendly, sweaty concert.
No.
But, oh my goodness.
That was nuts.
Well, we're drinking the ginger lime flavor from, like you said, Boochcraft Organic Hard Kombucha. Let's see, what's this can say here? At the top, we've got a probiotic, plant-based, and gluten-free. The ginger lime, it comes in a lot of different flavors. We got a variety pack, but we're trying out this one tonight. It says live cultured, must keep cold. So don't take this down the raft on the rafting trip unless you got a good Yeti with you. Alcohol 7.0 by volume. And let's see, they got all sorts of virtue signaling facts on this thing. It's it's organic, it's real, bright and crisp. This outrageously refreshing ginger winter goes with anything and elevates everything. They give 1% for the planet, and they're fair for life. I don't know what that means.
Hey man, I'm all for companies giving 1% back to the planet. What do you think? Do you think they just put the money in the ground?
Yeah, they just plant dollars in the ground.
Actually, just put money in the ground and grow mushrooms off of it.
I think it's cool. Anytime like a company does like a 1% thing,
Montucky Cold Snack does that.
I'm always like,
you can actually see the charities they give to.
I guess if you're big enough too, the 1% could be a lot.
Yeah,
I'm like, let's up it. It's up to like 5%. If you did 5%, that'd start getting my attention. Like, okay, they mean it.
After expenses, homie, there's a company's gonna stay in business.
You're right. This is why I'm a bad businessman. It's brewed, juiced, and packaged by Boochcraft. So
made in house with love. With love. That's what I tasted when it got all over my face and in my mouth, a little bit in my eye. That was
bubbly.
love.
Oh.
Some hippie love. Yeah, whatever rose hips are, those are in here too. Raw kombucha, ginger, limes, rose hips, yeast. Bright and crisp. I gotta say, first sips though. That is, well, that's ginger and lime. I mean, that is, especially the aftertaste is very limey. Like,
there's a sub aftertaste that kind of tastes like
key lime pie almost, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I'm getting something that's like, you know, when you walk in a college basement where they don't clean the bottled water out.
Nope.
I'm getting like a little skunk, old skunky vibe. I can't put my finger on it.
It is made with mushrooms, so kind of.
I'm going to give it the swish, but it might get everywhere.
Yeah, everybody, as you know, go ahead, take a good sip and swish it around your mouth. push it through your teeth and really get that full aerated flavor.
It's got to be real limes in there because it's making me make a sour face.
It's making me pucker.
It's real.
I think the ginger is really good though. Like that's a good, like, it's not overbearing. That's the same amount of ginger as I like kind of flavored in my Moscow mules. Honestly, you could just use this, no ginger beer, no lime juice. Just pour this in with ice and vodka, and I think you'd have a baller Moscow mule.
Mm.
What do you think?
I agree. I think you'd have a ripper of a Moscow mule.
Yeah, 7% here. Yeah, actually, you're right. That'd be pretty. That's like an X Games Moscow mule. That's my favorite time to drink. That's like a Moscow mule is at the X Games.
Yeah, that's like when you stick the beer in the top of the margarita.
Yeah, extra alcohol.
Don't have any plans after that.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. So Boochcraft, they were founded in 2016 and they are out of Chula Vista, California. Started by 3 friends. They sought to create a hard kombucha that tasted great, inspired connection, and was based in quality and whole food. Seeing the need for an alcoholic beverage with integrity, they created a soft craft brew you could not only enjoy, but feel good about drinking. Millions of scobies later, Boochcraft was born with a mission to inspire vitality, support our earth, build community, and have fun along the way.
Scobies, such a hippie name for mushrooms.
Yeah. So
I love that word though, scobies.
The first time scobies, like, I think of like something that like is like on the wall of a urinal. Like, okay, so here's why.
I was just thinking about like Scooby snacks.
Yeah. I walked into this is my first exposure to kombucha ever. This was over 10 years ago. It was about 10 years ago. And walk into like a college friend's house. Her roommate was making her own kombucha. Mm-hmm. And like kombucha was available in the stores at this time, but it was like becoming in vogue during this time. Everybody's like into it. And she just had this like giant Tupperware on top of their fridge with this huge, nasty floating loogie. It was like the size of like a medium-sized pizza. Just floating up there and just bobbling.
Just the head of the shroom.
Yeah, and it just was this giant thing. I was just like, what is that?
Yeah.
What in God's name are you doing? Like, did you leave something up there?
Did you ever watch the movie The Blob?
Mm-mm.
So I had a roommate who would grow in it. So he took the giant freaking Costco pretzel jar.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like over a gallon size of pretzels, right? And he got that and would empty it and then just start brewing kombucha in it. And the way that thing just looked floating in there and like the other ones, and he talked to it like it was, it is living.
I'm surprised these vegans can bring themselves to eat it after the relationship they make with their SCOBY.
Yeah, it is like raising a cow that he slaughtered, I guess. But he wasn't even a vegan. He just liked kombucha. But I just remember seeing it every day, and as it grew, I just had this urge to shoot it. Like, I thought it was going to be an alien parasite. I was like, we have to kill this now. We have to destroy this thing.
All I knew was when I saw that thing in this, like, like college houses, it was just like kind of nasty, whatever. Just like this thing floating in. It was a girl's house, so it wasn't as bad as a dude's house. But it was just like, I'm not putting that in my body.
Yeah, I think the grossest part is that, like, the process of getting the liquid separate from the Scooby, whatever.
I've never seen it. Is it?
I've never seen it either. Oh. Hey, fun fact about me, Pat. I hate mushrooms. I just think I don't like the taste of them. I don't like the texture. And for everyone who's wondering, like, what the what is the Mick and Pat show doing? Why are they drinking, this kind of vegan alternative to beer? Well, here's the reason. It's because the show we're going to be talking about tonight has a very hard emphasis on fungus being part of the end of the world, bringing about the apocalypse. And since all alcohol is technically a result of fungus, as far as I know, I don't know of an alcohol that exists without the process of fermentation from yeast, which is a fungus. So all that said, I didn't want to just phone it in and just get like any beer. I wanted to get, a beverage that is thematically in line with our shows, as we always try to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just went, asked about hard kombucha, because I knew that was made with fungus. And the guy who, directed me to this at our favorite liquor store in town, he was like, hey, man, I've never had it, but you can't go wrong with sampler pack. And this is one we chose out of our sampler pack. So all that said, we're not making a hard shift to kombucha. I will tell you this, though. As someone who's never tasted kombucha before,
Mm-hmm.
this is a banger. As someone who's never had just normal kombucha or hard kombucha, I thought it was going to have like a mushroomy, not oil, but kind of oily taste to it. And I'm pleasantly surprised at how good this tastes. I don't want to, eavesdrop the review away, but anyways, that's just my explanation for why we're doing it. Pat, back to you so you can kind of give us some more information about Boochcraft and all that jazz.
Also like we were saying before, I was saying this before we started recording, but I think for me, going from like drinking like tea or soda or water into like trying kombucha was a weird shift.
Yeah.
Like the first time I ever actually tried it, couldn't bring myself to do it. I was like, I don't know about that stuff. First time I tried it, I was like, this stuff tastes weird, man. But then like, that was before I drank beer.
Uh-huh.
Now, like if you drink, I think drinking beer, like the transition over to kombucha, it's a little more like, it's for whatever reason you're in the same arena. You're just sliding over.
Mm-hmm.
But all kombucha has a little bit of alcohol in it.
Yeah, a little
apparently.
bit, like 1%, 2%, right?
And I guess, and that's
It's
gotta
like
be
below the legal threshold because you can buy it when you're not 21.
right. But what I was wondering was like, you can't necessarily even buy non-alcoholic beer before you're 21, can you?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, because one time I was in a old Chicago's and we were watching baseball in college, and I was like, man, I just want to have like a beer right now. But I was 20. And I was like, the guy came over, I was like, hey, can I get one of these O'Doul's, like non-alcoholics? He's like, yeah, where's your ID? And I'm like, I'm not 21. It says non-alcoholic. He's like, bro, no. And I just felt like an idiot. Because I already felt like an idiot for ordering a non-alcoholic. And then he just extra.
That sounds to me like the most Boy Scout thing you could do at the bar.
I know.
Like that.
Like maybe,
it's honest. Dude, I'd ask you to leave. If I was that bartender, I'd be like, who are you here with? And I would have asked you all to leave.
I know. I should have just gone for the real deal.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to actually hurt your feelings.
No, it was rather embarrassing.
That's like the most male Karen thing I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, no. Ouch. Damn,
that was a knife to the heart.
No, I was trying to figure out how we even ended up there, because you can buy kombucha in the store, but you can't buy non-alcoholic beer unless you're 21. But there's a little bit of alcohol in all kombucha, so I'm wondering if the kombucha you can buy in the store is it the real deal?
Part of me thinks that you also have to be 18.
Or like they've dumbed it down.
No, it's still got alcohol in it. I remember. So there's this Buddhist monastery with this giant, like 20-foot tall, gold-plated statue of Buddha, up in Red Feather Lakes in Colorado. Beautiful. Go to it. I can't remember exactly what the whole place is called, but look it up. You'll find it. But they sold their own like kombucha and stuff in the shop, but then they had like name brand kombucha, and it was the first time I ever heard about it. And I remember this kid, he's like, oh, dude, I love kombucha. It was like freshman year of college. He was 18, and he bought it, and they didn't like ID him. Or I think they did ID him, and he just had to show that he was 18. This could be totally hearsay at this point because it was so long ago.
Yeah. But now they're just making it full on. They're adding alcohol to it. And so here's a little fact from the internet. It can aid, so kombucha in general aids in your digestion. It colonizes your gut with healthy bacteria to boost your immunity. And now it can also be your evening drink of choice. So people are, I guess they're like, it's like healthy beer now.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I like it so far. I'm also a big fan of ginger in moderation because I know ginger is really good for burning fat. Like having ginger in your body is really, really good for burning fat. Like it's kind of one of those negative things, apparently, like celery, where if you eat it, you burn calories just by doing it. So, all that said, Pat, go ahead and give me those. Really, we kind of mentioned the tasting notes already just from the first response, but let's kind of go into our opinions. Really, what we're getting out of this, what we're tasting.
Yeah, I think one thing I do like about it says they use real plants and whole fresh pressed organic fruit, and I feel like I can really taste all the flavors in this thing. And it doesn't feel like a synthesized flavor. It feels like real ginger, real lime. I like ginger. It's like ginger lime together. Like feels good on you. Like if you got a little bit of sore throat or whatever.
Here's my only question. Ingredients: raw kombucha, ginger, limes, rose hips, yeast. But it says gluten free. I'm not exactly sure how you can have yeast in the beverage and it be gluten free. Smoke break.
Smoke break.
Hey, Ken, it's Mick, and I've got something important to talk about. We all hope we never find ourselves in a self-defense situation, but life's unpredictable. Enter the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer, an actual credible law firm you can put on retainer for your self-defense needs. For just $35 a month, you get national coverage in all 50 states for criminal and civil legal representation in self-defense situations, complete with a 24/7, 365 toll-free emergency line. That's real legal support when you need it most. What's in the package? Bail bonds, scene cleanup, firearm replacement, even mental health counseling. Plus, 0 fees for a laundry list of defense-related costs like expert witnesses. So support the show and get yourself some peace of mind. Click the link in our show notes or visit our sponsors page to sign up for the National Self-Protection Plan from Attorneys on Retainer.
Hey folks, Pat here. If you're like Mick and I, you're a fan of classic tales like Lonesome Dove, Blood Meridian, The Three-Body Problem, and Steinbeck's East of Eden. With Audible, you can dive into these epic stories anytime, anywhere. Sign up for a free month, and your first audiobook is on the house. To start your free trial and support our show, click the link in the show notes or swing by the sponsors page on our website.
Want an awesome website for your podcast? Check out Podpage. We use it for the Mick Pat show, and it's a game changer. Set it up in minutes, no coding needed. Support the show by using our link to get started. Your podcast deserves a home as great as ours. Podpage, the one-stop solution.
Well, I don't know about that science, but if is yeast gluten? I've said this for years. What's a gluten? I don't know.
Well, it comes from wheat, just like most yeast does.
Yeah, but that's a wonder. And also if you're using, I don't know. I don't know about the science on this.
Yeah. I do think it says organic ingredients, organic yeast, organic rose hips. Well, you know what? That's a question for us to be educated on by someone wiser than us.
The yeast go away?
Yeah,
as it ferments?
Germinates and fermentates. Like germinates, which is what causes the fermentation. Yeah.
So maybe there's no little gluten yeast in there after the fact or something.
Dude, whatever rose hips is. So rose hips is a fruit. It looks like a radish.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good name for a band. If no one's taken that name yet, Rose Hips.
Rose Hips.
That's like a classic 70s hair rock band.
I think that's a great name for a band.
Anyways, I'll tell you what. I'm really getting, the ginger is immediately there. It warms you. It really, it is a Moscow Mule. Tell me this doesn't give you the same kind of warmth.
Yeah.
When you take a sip and swallow that a Moscow Mule does, with ginger beer.
Definitely. Warmth with no burn.
Yeah. I wonder if that's partially to the rose hips because radishes, are kind of like a spicy warm vegetable.
That's what's giving it that other flavor I'm tasting?
I think so.
Spice.
And then, the lime, like you said, the lime does taste like fresh pressed lime juice. If you told me this was like a ginger limeade with fresh squeezed limeade a minute ago, I'd believe you. It tastes really good. Probiotic, I'm excited to see what that means because probiotic often means like you're gonna shit your brains out or you're not gonna shit for a while. And so I'm really interested how both of us respond to that.
That'll be the latest post on my Instagram.
Yeah.
a bowl shot.
Oh, no. We don't do that to people here, bro. Well, I'll say this. I definitely think that it has a great flavor. The flavor actually is 100% hitting all of the notes. I can't really think of a beer I've had that's similar, or even a seltzer that I think tastes similar. Just because it's a Moscow Mule in a can, minus some vodka. You know what I mean? I can imagine this. It's like minus 10 out, minus 20th wind chill. You're watching, someone cleaning the half pipe, and this is poured into shaved ice with 2 shots of vodka. Like, bro, you don't feel that weather at all, man. You're having a good time, and I'm stoked about it. I'm ready to give it reviews, dude. I'm ready. What about you?
Yeah, no, I think for all the kind of some of the hippy dippy crap on their website about how good they are to the planet and some other things too, just in general.
Yeah.
When one of your core values is do better, when I hear that, I think of a angry white woman yelling at somebody to do better. You know what I mean? Maybe not, but
I think of drill instructors, honestly.
Oh yeah, telling you to do better. And everybody can do better out there.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just used venomously. And they're from California, which there's a lot of great people in California. But I always have to give some extra vetting. All that to say, I think they're the real deal. The tastes that are in this with the fresh fruits that they're using to make it, and the fact that when it's been popped open in a can and it still tastes fresh, when you're drinking a Truly or a whatever, the seltzers and all those things, the White Claws, you can taste that you're drinking kind of like a kid's Capri Sun with cheap alcohol added to it.
Yep.
It
tastes like I mixed a Capri Sun with vodka on the plane.
Yeah, and it's they're good, but this leaves you fresh.
Yeah. It's also only 160 calories, so really I think it's not worth arguing over I could get a lower calorie seltzer. Most seltzers I've seen are 100 to 180, 200 calories, right? So all that said, I'm going to give it 2 thumbs, dog. I agree with everything you said. It is, the can is simple in design. I think it's a good aesthetic. The flavors are all there. There's nothing that I think is overpowering or missed. I would recommend, as someone who's never had kombucha, whether hard or not, this being my first foray into it, I have no hesitation recommending every single person to try it. I can't think of one person who wouldn't like this.
I think for this one specifically, if you don't like ginger, that's if you don't like ginger or whatever.
If you don't like Moscow Mules, then you might not like this.
But they've got grapefruit and apple and other flavors we haven't tried. But for this one in particular, I agree. I'll give it a 1 thumb up.
1 thumb?
1 thumb, because I like it. I think it's great. I don't know.
Do you remember the scale of the thumbs?
Yeah.
2 thumbs up is I recommend everybody to try it. 1 thumb is I like it. Maybe not everyone will like it. Okay. All right. I'm just making sure.
So that's what I mean. So that's what I'm going to say. 1 thumb up. Here's the deal. I like this beer. Well, I can't call it a beer. And that's kind of why I'm giving it 1.
Oh.
I'm protecting us from the haters.
Dude, I'm fully okay with this being my first 2 thumbs up on the podcast. I think this is my first 2 thumbs up.
I know. I'm being diplomatic.
When have we ever been diplomatic, Pat?
Diplomatic immunity. That's the only thing I know about the word diplomacy.
Yeah.
So you can get immunity. Because I'm giving it 1 thumbs up. I like it. I think it's worth a try, but I don't think it's for everybody. This one particularly, it's pretty like if you're a Moscow Mule fan, it's a 2 thumb upper.
Yeah.
If you're not a huge Moscow Mule fan or don't like him at all, like you're not going to like this. But it's good. Like, and for what it is, it's great.
I'll tell you this. Over the last several beers we've had that were all ales, I would pick this in a heartbeat. If you asked me to pick between this and the pine cone or the poopery bowl, it's not a debate. It's not a debate, right?
And this still has like a wintry Christmas feel to it, or a summer day too.
It could be both. I associate Moscow Mules more with snow. But
but then I also think of like when I think of ginger too, I think of like a, like sushi light.
I don't eat
by the
sushi.
ocean.
I don't eat fish.
Zero fish.
I don't like seafood.
All right, folks, we're going to dig into this on a later podcast because that is missing out. But from here, we're giving it 3 thumbs.
3 out of a potential 4, and there's been nothing that reached that so far.
That's just our first 3 out of 4.
That's insane. That's insane. Essentially, really with our full scale, that's basically a 7 out of 8.
Yep.
That's a damn good beverage, folks. Boochcraft, you won me over. I don't care what your political beliefs are. If you want a sponsorship, we'll give you a commercial. We're all down for it. That is a damn good beverage, and I look forward to drinking it for the rest of the show here, which we're going to transition on over to reviewing the new HBO show, getting a lot of buzz, and rightfully so, because it's a show that has been dreamed about, and has been theorized, and there's been people who have tried to kind of step in to be the directors at times and the showrunners for years since the video games first came out. But the new show, The Last of Us, on HBOMAX, soon to be whatever HBOMAX becomes. They're always changing their name. But The Last of Us is the new show that's coming out there, and they've got the first episode out. It's a banger of an episode because it's like an hour and 35, an hour and 40 minutes long. It's a long episode. And, it's a really good introduction, I think, to the idea of the show, and the characters, the kind of main characters that you're going to be spending the series with. And I can say, as someone who played the video games back in the day and thought, damn, this is the closest I've ever felt to like playing a movie, like a visceral movie that is actually giving me emotions. I can tell you this, Miss Mick, Billie Jean cried while we played this video game.
Oh my goodness.
Like literally, and it was like mostly from the cutscenes and stuff, because the cutscenes were so well done and very cinematic, especially for the time. But dude, you just cared about the characters in the video games, and even these characters that you meet, and you only spend what could be described as a chapter with them. And that chapter, you just seriously admire and start to care about their personality and them as a whole. And it was just really well done. And I know for the better part of a decade now, people have been just trying to theorize who would be the people in the show, who would be the characters in the show, and all that. And so to really see it finally here and being executed really well, as far as adoptions of video games go, like, dude, I don't know about you, there's not really good examples of video games being adopted into TV shows or movies.
What are you talking about, bro? Mario Bros.
Trash. Mortal
Assassin's
Kombat.
Creed.
Trash.
Oh, my personal favorite, Halo.
There's no Halo show. There's no Halo show. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no such thing as the Halo show. There is that weird show that definitely infringes on copyright with Halo. I think it's called John Halo, The Quest for Clapping Alien Cheeks. I hated that thing, dude. I watched like the first 3 episodes, and I wanted to throw my phone against the wall as a kid who grew up on Halo. Anyways,
they wrecked your heart.
Dude, I don't want to talk about it. I really don't want to talk about it, actually. Like, that's such a sore spot for me.
Oh, my goodness.
So, with that said, getting into the show, it is directed by Craig Mazin, which most people probably don't know the name Craig Mazin, but I will tell you he is well known for the show he produced, not produced, directed, which is Chernobyl, which was the factual account of the actual Chernobyl disaster in Ukraine underneath the USSR back in the day. And he pretty much did a really phenomenal job at taking this account and the true story following the people who were responding to the disaster, and kind of the photographic evidence of what was going on in the hospitals and following specific patients and how they met their unfortunate demises due to this horrible event. And he did it with a perfect execution, in my opinion. And I know many people who watched Chernobyl thought it was great because it could have been so boring. There's so much talking and deliberating when it comes to disaster shows, shows that essentially are supposed to be like, oh my God, the world might end. But when it's in reality, most of the time it's people sitting in a room trying to talk and argue about how to solve it. Most of the time there's not a lot of action happening, not a lot of things moving on the board. And so he took that concept and really ran with it and made it a very, not only accurate to the events that took place, but I would say gave it a really good climax and kind of drama between, current for the time, political differences and competitions between like the United States and the USSR. And it really, you do care about these characters who, for just a little while in the show, you see their interactions with their families, their wives, their children, and then you start like seeing them responding to disaster, trying to save people's lives, just being absolute, heroes. And with radiation and like the foreboding destruction of radiation and how radiation could have, from this disaster Chernobyl, could have destroyed Europe if it wasn't handled properly. You see these people, their names are changed for the sake of the show, but you see them like their skin fall off their bones from insane amounts of like gamma radiation. You see them all develop cancer. You see the USSR actually planned assassinations and hit pieces, and all of it is, the reason this is all relevant because it coalesces into like a phenomenal telling of how the world almost ended in like Europe and Russia, and how people responded in a crisis and responded in a manner that felt very real, felt like you were in the room and seeing this like actual approach to handling the crisis. And it wasn't ever beyond belief. And I think this director, Craig Mazin, brings everything from that into this show, because nothing in the show the whole time I was watching it ever felt like it was beyond the stretch of imagination. And especially, the beginning opening of the show where they're talking about just what diseases are threats to mankind, what infections are threats to mankind. That's not in the game. And so like that kind of intro was really cool for me as someone who had played the game and seen that. But a little bit more background on just the people in the show. Lead, Pedro Pascal, you know him. He's the Mando, the Mandalorian. Regardless of what your thoughts are on that show or Disney, he crushes it as the man with no name, essentially. He's Clint Eastwood, but in Star Wars. He's also known as Game of Thrones. The first time I saw him was in Game of Thrones. He was the Viper, and damn, was that not just like probably the best scene in the whole show of Game of Thrones, in my opinion, of just him fighting the Mountain, the Viper versus the Mountain. That was absolute insane tension and twist, and he did a great job. I'll never forget Pedro Pascal's scream. Literally, the way Pedro Pascal screams in Game of Thrones burned into my mind. And then he was also in Narcos. He was great in Narcos as the Colombian agent working with the CIA to bring down Pablo Escobar. Also true story. He's based off of a real agent who helped bring down Pablo. So Pedro Pascal, you know him. He's an incredibly talented actor. Bella Ramsey, she's from Game of Thrones as well. And apparently she's in the show His Dark Materials. Haven't seen it. Heard decent things about it. It's kind of the show that's based off of a setting where gifted children are paired with animals, and I guess they're trying to kill God. It's a very interesting concept of a show. I'm not entirely sure I understand it, but I've heard good things about it. And then Nico Parker, I want to shout her out because Nico Parker plays Pedro Pascal's daughter in the show. Sarah, I believe her name was. And her biggest claim to fame is actually The Last of Us so far, as well as Dumbo and a movie known as Reminiscence. But yeah, so that's kind of the top cast. And Nico Parker's, she's only in a couple episodes, at least according to the IMDb page, but really just wanted to shout her out because I thought she crushed it in the beginning of this episode, where pretty much we spend most of the episode with her. And then a little bit of background in case you haven't watched the show. No spoilers here, but spoilers probably going forward after at least for just episode 1, after we go past this. But this is going to be just a quick plot summary. Joel and Ellie. Joel played by Pedro Pascal, Ellie played by Bella Ramsey. A pair connected through the harshness of the world they live in are forced to endure brutal circumstances and ruthless killers on a trek across post-pandemic America. I would say post-apocalyptic is a little bit a better word. And I would say at its core, this is my own kind of description of the show with, no real spoilers. At its core, the story of The Last of Us is truly about the lengths mankind will go in order to preserve hope for a better future. This includes how far we can sink down through the levels of degeneracy and depravity, as well as rise through the levels of selflessness and self-sacrifice, especially in regards to the dilemmas of who to save between those we love dearly and are cherished to us and those who might be the better choice for the betterment of mankind. And it's I think, a really good personal story. And the idea is, if you remember just the name of the show, The Last of Us, is essentially what you see throughout the whole show is just humanity on its last leg. This is the last of humanity. And if this is the last of humanity, then what does that say about humanity? What's this reflection we see? So yeah, that's kind of the quick, brief summary. No spoilers. Leading cast, who's in it. Hopefully it caught your attention. If you haven't seen it, I really think, you should kind of already be intrigued just by who's in the show and kind of the plot. But, yeah, this is our version of the, essentially not early review, but like just
first takes
on the show. Only watching episode 1. Is it good enough that we want to keep with it to see if it pans out? Is it good enough that so far we'd even recommend it to others, or is it kind of a pass just based off of the first episode? Are we really not interested in pursuing it further? So, all that said, I've been talking a bit. Pat, let's get into it, man. Tell me your thoughts, things, because you haven't played the video games. You don't really know much about this story, this idea, these characters, right?
Yes, I don't know really anything about the build up to this. All I noticed in the opening credits, it says based off PlayStation game, and I missed the last part of it. But what year did that game come out? Is it multiple games?
There's 2 of them.
There's 2 of them.
And the first game, I think, came out in I want to say 2013.
Okay.
And the apocalypse in that game, like the 2013, and then it time jumps to 2038 post pandemic. The show is specified at some point.
2003.
2003, and takes place in 2023. So a little bit of difference there in the time windows. But I think it works. I know they talked about wanting to remind people what it was like before you could just look up the news on your phone.
Yeah.
And I thought they did a good job.
It makes sense. Yeah. Cause like when the kid in this first episode, when the kid wakes up, it's got like a digital alarm clock.
Sarah, Joel's daughter.
Yep. Okay. And doesn't have a cell phone. Doesn't doesn't know what's going on. Isn't it looked, they did capture that pretty well. Kind of just like a simpler world.
She asked people about the news, and
nobody knew.
Yeah, normal adults don't even know what the news is because they have the TV turned off, right?
They haven't looked. It's not 6 o'clock, so whatever. So they haven't watched the news yet.
Yeah.
But I thought, from the opener of this show, starts in 1968 talk show. These 2 guys breaking down what diseases could take mankind out, and you know, and they shift to talking about this fungus. You know, one guy's like, well, you know, a pandemic could happen. And you can tell, one, they're like, this thing is like perfectly primed by the recent COVID pandemic for everybody to like, not fear mongering's the wrong word, but like, just like well timed. You know, like
yeah. I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. You know, because it has a little bit of a taste of climate change too. You
know, yeah. So like they're kind of, but you know, like if this came out in 2018, it'd be like, oh, another zombie movie.
Yeah.
You know, but then when it comes out now, and you hear the word pandemic, pre, you know, 2020, and you're like, oh yeah, that could happen. Or like if you see someone wearing a mask, you're like, oh, that's super weird. And now it's like, oh no, this is like, this is just life now. And so then that is hitting a lot of strings in your brain and heart as this like whole thing's playing out. And even like you could, if you took like the 2020 pandemic and kind of made it extremely hyperbolized, you kind of get this world for a little bit. Now we came out of it. It didn't kill that many people compared to what this show portrays and stuff. But like, I saw a lady rip a thing of toilet paper out of a child's hands.
Yeah.
In the store.
Yeah.
You know, like I saw that happen. It was like, what is going on in society?
Yeah.
You know, like that sort of things, like the sort of the breakdown there and all these things. And so I think that it's a really well-timed movie to come out.
Show
to come out. It felt like a movie. It was an hour 25 on the first episode.
Oh yeah.
But it didn't feel long, but it was like, I like how shows now, they kind of feel like movies.
Yeah.
Because they really like, they give you the whole enchilada. Because they're not worried about commercial time as much anymore and all that stuff and whatever else. But I liked it, and I thought that it was zombie type movies can be, because I would put this in the zombie movie category.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
They can be like overplayed or cheesy or whatever, but the way that they made this one feel real or possible, I thought was, you know, it made it plausible, or you could see where something like a worldwide pandemic, if it was actually a truly horrible, crazy disease, could really wipe out a lot of people. And that old lady's fungus lips freaked me out, dude.
Yeah. The little fungus
Suckers.
hairs coming out of her mouth.
Yeah, I was watching.
That's pretty gross.
I was watching that in the dark, in my office by myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the pretense of like, you know, all it requires, you know, it's 1968, you know, climate change, global warming. Climate change wasn't a word really, a phrase, but global warming was. And they're like the threat of like, if the temperature rises just enough in these environments, then that fungus does have to evolve to live in that environment or die. And historically, funguses or fungi, plural, fungi, they're really good at adapting to environments. They're really good at it. And so historically, they probably would adapt. And then if that temperature rises up, then perhaps they will have the ability then for their spores to live within us and in a warmer, you know, mammalian body. And so all that, like, I thought was a perfect opening, because in the games, never do you get the breakdown of how cordyceps leaped from insects to humans. Like, there's just never really that explanation, at least that I can remember. I'm sure there's tons of notes and stuff in that game, but I don't remember anything explicitly spelling it out.
Even if it's not actually scientifically plausible, the way that they set it up in this world by saying just simply, well, if the earth gets warmer, then fungi can inhabit your body. Yeah. And like those two, they're just like, even if that's still totally off base scientifically, it just makes you feel like, wow, that could happen.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like the thought is like, you know, it's even in America, you hear all about the time about like black mold or just fungus that's harmful to you. Sugar mold. Sugar mold is so bad it's worse for you than asbestos. And like sugar mold is like can like seriously destroy your lungs. And all that said, like you hear about that stuff and it's not that hard. It's not that far of a stretch of imagination. But anyways, spoilers going forward, get into the real good questions. Again, we want to kind of keep this short because if we like the show, we'll do a full review on the season as a whole. But spoilers going forward. If you haven't watched the show, don't listen past this if you want to save it for yourself. Pat, when you're watching the show, did you think that little girl, the daughter, was going to be a character down the line? Did you think she was going to be a primary character with how much focus was on her? Because when she dies, is such a pivotal moment for a lot of people. I remember playing the game, and when she died, it was gut wrenching. That had never happened in a video game before, where like you're playing, like you played as her for most of the game up until she died.
Yeah.
And like when it happens, you're like, what the hell? Where do we go from here?
So because I watch TV and movies they're kind of ruined as a consumer for me.
Yeah.
Here's when I was watching it, here's what went through my brain. It was like there was 2 cues that she was going to die. I'm trying to remember the second one. The first one was the brother, Tommy, his name, walks in and she like says something smart about Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia. And he's like, there's still hope for us yet. And it's kind of like, I know this gets really dark fast, so she might die.
Oh, yeah.
The other one that I kind of took as a clue, I can't remember that. Then there was another part where when they're riding in the car and she's like, "Are we sick? Are we sick?" The one part that did throw me was she was like, "What if we all have it?"
Yeah.
I knew she was going to die somewhat early on, but how I thought it was going to play out was I thought that she was going to have it, and he was going to have to I Am Legend doggy her.
Damn, bro. That's messed up, dude.
So I wasn't sure how far they would go, how fast, but I thought he was going to have to give her the dog treatment from I Am Legend. That's brutal. Which is pretty rough stuff. But
dude, I don't know if I could choke out my own child like that. I think I'd just use a gun instead.
I can't even. That's just you just got to make that decision. Here's the deal: once zombies are real, then I'll answer that question.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Like, hopefully our podcast is still running so people know what you chose to do. You know?
Yeah, when that becomes a thing, we'll jump off that cliff when it's time for it. But
yeah,
because here's the deal in that movie, in this show. While I did feel it coming that she was going to get it, it was one of the first times I've watched, as a somewhat new father, like a 3-year-old, so pretty new to the game.
Yeah.
Is like, I watched it from like a parent's perspective. And while it's always sad, like watch someone lose a kid, I was having a little bit of like, I was identifying with the dad and like in that moment.
Yeah.
And like this guy who's a kind of ex-military type, whatever, like he knows the whole world's gone to crap and like he knows there's no one to call. Like even if she could have survived that gunshot wound in the normal everyday world, she wasn't going to, because there's no ambulance to call. There's nobody to come. There's nobody coming to help you. And so like watching the hopelessness come in, and like Tommy, the brother, realizes first, like, hey man, like she's going to die.
Yeah, dude,
like,
the way Joel cries out, Tommy, help me. And then Tommy's just like, Joel. And then it cuts back and she's already dead. Like she's already gone. Like
Tommy was almost being like, you just need to hold her. Yeah, like it's done, man. So it was real and it was intense in that sense. Yeah, it's like
was it. I guess here's the thing. I just remember having such an emotional impact on me and like my friends when we played it. When it happened and like you saw on the show, even if you sensed it coming, like the way that actress, the way she, what was her name? Nico Parker, the way she like hyperventilated. I mean,
when she was dying.
Yeah. Like I was like, holy, that is what someone sounds like when they get shot in the diaphragm. and like it goes through their gut. Like they can't breathe.
It was a pretty good, like, they didn't just like breathe out and stick their tongue out. Like, it's just a good old fashioned like cowboy death.
Didn't get like no nice words with dad.
No,
in the end,
it was like that was like real death. So yeah, I think that's part of why it was so intense. Is just that real death. And like, also, when did this game come out again? It was like
2013.
2013. So like, if I'd played it then as like a kid, I wouldn't have seen it coming.
Yeah,
like,
it was so strange, dude. It was so strange.
Messed with your head.
It was awesome though. Okay. Question then about just your opinions on the actors, actresses. Primarily I'm just kind of wondering, like, supporting cast, like Bella Ramsey, she's playing Ellie.
Mm-hmm.
She's in the games, Ellie is a mouthy character, but she's very childish.
Right.
Because there's adults looking out for her a lot once they find out that she got bit and is immune. That she doesn't get she's not infected.
Oh, in the game, yeah.
Yeah, in the game is what I mean. Yeah. And so like when you meet her in the game, there's like a naivety, innocence to her still, but there's also like a spoiled innocence too, because she like has a bad potty mouth. She doesn't like, there is no thinking twice about like killing someone. Like you can tell by the time you meet her in the video game, she's maybe 12 or 13. She knows. She's seen people raped. She's killed someone, but there is still like a sense of like adults have been protecting her. So she's kind of not aware of how serious or how dangerous, some of this world is still. And I'll say, like, the perspective of the show, I think they did a good job, but I would say for people, my fear was that people who hadn't played the games would think that Bella Ramsey was overacting, like hamming it a little bit, like being a little too mouthy or a little too aggressive, swearing a little too much.
Yeah, I did think this, like, her first, like 8 of her first 10 lines were the F word.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and so it was just kind of like,
hey, what the fuck?
Yeah, so it was a little like, there's a part where like the water drips on her, and she like, WTFs, and it's like, instead of like saying what the does not have that much power if you just say it all the time. And so like,
yeah,
you can develop the character some in that way too, but it was also just like you could actually develop the character more by like even silence and her eyes giving disdain to the water that dripped on her head.
Yeah, I agree.
And like, so it was like, we'll see how she develops through the show, I guess,
I do think they were kind of cramming a little bit of her, like
her story.
Yeah. Like I think they really wanted you to know, especially like, hey, people who don't know what any of this is about, here's the surrogate daughter. This is why we're giving her so much screen time, the surrogate daughter for Joe. Right. And so I think they did it. I think they just, I don't know. Sometimes I think the writers aren't aware that they write the same line 5 times or something, right? Because she really did say, "What the f," like
just over and over again.
Like, yeah, it was a little. It wasn't like the profanity bothered me. It was just like new dialogue,
right? Yeah, it didn't bother me. It just didn't add.
Yeah. Okay. So, I guess the other question then is, environment wise, show wise, for me, it's dream come true. I think they play it so well to the game. For you, like, are there things that you notice? Because I think I'm gonna struggle to not notice the plot holes because I have nostalgia lenses on so hard right now, and so I'm kind of wondering for you, like, is there anything already that you kind of picked up in the beginning that was like, what that doesn't make sense, or like anything that like. I'm not gonna even try to defend it. I'm just kind of curious to see what you pick up that I miss.
No, in this first episode, I didn't. Like, the main thing I looked for was actually for them to screw up on like putting something in that it had been made post 2003.
Oh yeah,
and so
good
they did really good at like even like the soldier who one like the soldiers, like he has a Vietnam light, the old 90-degree angle Vietnam light that you get from the Army surplus store that you can put the red lens on and change it out. Yeah, that like we all had when we were little. Like, he has that. And I was looking on their guns, like, here's what sucks for them. Like, I was thinking about just from a production standpoint, I was like, you can't have any LED lights Like we didn't have them.
Yeah,
we
LEDs
had
weren't
LEDs,
around.
but we didn't use them for this sort of stuff.
They just weren't even like
we
they're
had 'em,
Christmas decorations.
Yeah, like we had them, but all they were was like an LED. Like what a LED it was at this time was a light in a fire truck.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was it. We didn't have them used as that actual use. Helicopter pilots had them for like a reading light, but like that's it. And so like if you see any like LED lights in this, which we have those on all of our guns, all of our flashlights now, everything. So like when they're going through the cave or through the tunnels, they're showing they have old school like mag light type lights, you know, and stuff like and all that. And so they did a good job at all that. I thought in like the gear that everybody had and all those things, because eventually it'll be hard to just keep things. It's been 20 years, so it's kind of hard to source in a sense, like to like keep up with that all the time.
Yeah.
But they'll so like I was looking for stuff like that, and they did good at that. And I'm sure there was some sort of like some car that was made in 2004 or whatever, you know, that snuck in there. But
Yeah.
for the most part, I thought it was good. And like plot hole wise, nothing yet, because of the fact that like I love this about pilots or first episodes of anything, because there's so much mystery for the writers and the directors to play with. There is no plot holes typically, because it's like, now what happens in season 2 is they forget about this key thing from episode 1, and that doesn't get drawn through to the end. But that thing that they said in episode 1 was like, oh my gosh, like how even like the new girl is Ellie is like the chosen one, you know, and it's like, we don't really know why she's chosen. You figure out at the end of the episode, you know, it's because she's like probably immune, you know, so like her blood's gonna like create the vaccine. Pfizer's gonna save a day, or whatever. But so initially, no plot holes or things that developed yet, or like in the production quality was good. Like I didn't see any like cheesy special effects or anything like that. I thought that all that was well done.
I'll tell you this. This is my biggest reason why I loved it so much, is that the first episode was essentially your first 2 to 3 hours in the game, maybe. Maybe not that, depending on how fast you play through the game. But it really was kind of like the first 2 hours to the game, to the T. Very few things were changed, and I understood why they were changed, but they still played homage to the game. Whereas something like the Halo TV show, which I get it is a interpretation of the material to a different story. But if the Halo show had followed this, you know, formula, oh my gosh, the success it would have had is, you know, it would have been light years better. But like, even it was down to dialogue, dude. Like when Sarah is sitting on the couch and Joel asks her, "How did you fix my watch?" And she says, "I deal drugs. I deal hardcore drugs." Straight out of the game. And the way she like laughed and fell down on him a little bit, like straight out of the game. It's like they had the game there as representation.
Why change it if it works?
If it works, right?
Mess it up. It's like the other day, I watched the old like 1960s 101 Dalmatians cartoon, and you know they made a new one in like the 90s with real people, and I notice it now watching. I haven't watched those for like 15, 20 years. I don't know, a long time. But so watching those now, I was like, the new one, they just pulled like straight dialogue, whole dialogue scenes right from it. The whole thing just like right out. And it's like, and I was thinking to myself, this thing of like, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Just somebody already made the story. Like, you don't have to add your own twist. It's like when you get a certain singer singing the national anthem.
Don't do your own flavor on it.
Like, here's the deal. Sing it the way you sing.
Yeah.
And that is your own flavor. But then there's and it's like the way some people will just barely tweak it, right? Is great. Then some people take it off the rails.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. I could tell you this. After the first episode, desperately want to watch and see how the rest of it goes out, because I want to see how faithful the rest of it is. So far, what I've seen from like the trailers and all that, character design to a T. I mean, they are nailing it. I looked up casting. They did, you know, some people are going to probably talk about like they re-raced. What's the erased? What's the term for when you swap out races? They race swap.
Erased. Re-raced.
Like Joel and Sarah in the video game, they're white. Sarah's a blonde daughter.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't bother me, like the way they went about it. I'm trying to think of anyone else they race swapped. I can't think of anyone else that comes to mind. But it was done in a way that wasn't like in your face about it. Like it was just story. And so with that, like I want to see how faithful they are to the rest of the kind of the plot points, because there's so much in the game that when you're playing the game, like they have to breeze over full hour, 2 hours of playing the game and put it into like a 10-minute scene maybe, right? So much of the game is like avoiding traps and dealing with bandits and stuff like that, and that's going to come down to like a scene where maybe they encounter one trap that is like resolved in 2 minutes, and where they get into a fight scene that is resolved in under a minute or something like that, where in the game it took
that was
10 minutes to go through. And
so I wonder, they could run I guess, do you think that there's enough material for them to not have to start adding in a lot?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think that there won't be weird. From what I've seen, I don't think they're going to do weird filler side points or tangents. I think they'll probably stick, because the game itself is, like I said, it's like playing a movie, and it really does lend itself to, I think, being minimized into scenes in a show. All that said, just a couple points that I want to shout out to people who played the game as well. I guess it's just one point. Merle Dandridge is the actress for Marlene, leader of the Fireflies in Boston. And that is actually the same voice character in the video game. So that was kind of cool that they brought her along.
Oh, wow.
And the other voices for Ellie and Joel and Tommy are also going to be in the show. They're just playing different characters.
Okay.
Because the voice for Ellie is a 30-year-old woman now, Ashley Johnson. Troy Baker couldn't really play her dad. Like Troy Baker is, I think, 40 something, maybe 50 something at this point. It's just like, what, they can't play those characters anymore because years have passed by and they're way in, they don't look like what they did when the game came out. Right. But I think that's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about it. I could tell you this, gosh, what's his name from Parks and Recs?
I was about to say, I wish I hadn't scrolled the IMDb, because Nick Offerman's in a couple episodes. So I was like, oh crap! I wish I was just surprised when I saw him. And then, but I'm also like, I'm excited for him to be in it.
I could tell you that he's the perfect guy to cast for the character he's playing.
Oh yeah,
like he looks like the guy. So I'm really excited for him to be in the show.
It was short lived, but I like that they had old Buddy Garrity in there. I'm pretty sure he was the Buddy Garrity from Friday Night Lights was the old man in the beginning.
Yeah,
who got eaten by Meemaw.
Yeah. That's not in the video game, but it was okay. I was fine that they went with those as being the neighbors versus in the video game. Well, in the show, when you're watching the show, and they drive by the house on fire and they say that's Jimmy's place.
Oh yeah.
In the video game, Jimmy's the neighbor.
Oh yeah.
And he's the first infected you see in the video game.
Oh yeah.
That attacks.
It was good the way they did it with it being an old lady who couldn't walk.
Yeah.
That was good.
Like she can't talk or she can't hear, and then the cordyceps makes her able to.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't a cheesy homage. I mean, it wasn't a cheesy use of an old woman being the monster like you see in so many other stuff.
It showed you how scary this crap was.
Yeah, dude. When she's in the background and she's out of focus and like crinkling and her mouth is opening and like her hands are moving, and like the infection's happening in her, but you can't hear it because she can't talk and she can't,
Oh, I guess you probably picked up on that before then. It's like when she's in the wheelchair, you're saying?
Yeah, and Sarah is like looking at the DVD cases.
You could tell she was infected.
Yeah, just by the way she was like
Moving.
contorting.
So that was like for fans. The fans knew.
Yeah. I encourage you and anyone else who hasn't played the video games to just Google, the first level playthrough or something of the Last of Us video game, because you'll see they have like the whole driving sequence through town in the game where you're just in Sarah's shoes watching all this, and you're looking either out like one of the windows of the car and you see everything going to hell. I would imagine it's actually the same amount of runtime in the show as it is in the video game. Like, and it's scene for scene. It's really well done. I kind of want to play them side by side to see like just how much of it is the same, because to me it was flawless. It was a perfect interpretation of a video game. All that said, our thoughts and thumb ratings, I'm going to say I'm on board for the rest of the show. 2 thumbs up for this episode 1. It's got me hooked.
Yeah, I'm giving the episode 1 2 thumbs up. We'll see how the season goes. It was good. It wasn't overdone. They basically, it's funny that they do skip 20 years, because it's like all of I was like, basically what happened in this show was new Carl died, and then they skipped the whole show. Because they pick it up 20 years later, but but it's an interesting take on it too, because you can just like, as now they can reveal how far society's degraded to, for being 2 decades later. Think about how different the world is now since 2003, just in general.
Yeah.
And then think about how different it would be something like this coming in.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It makes it like really clear that this is not an apocalypse you want.
Right.
One thing I'm curious, they didn't necessarily show in this episode. I'm wondering if it'll be in like episodes later, or if for the sake of it being easy to tell a story, they're going to leave out. But in the video games, you have to wear gas mask at points, because spores from the those infected with the cordyceps virus, once they reach the final stage, like we saw in the show, he's plastered on the wall.
Yeah.
You have to like be aware of the spores, because you could get infected just by inhaling them.
That was actually the only like plot hole thing that I saw, was as someone who like spends a lot of time in basement crawl spaces and attics and stuff, and in respirators, like I was like, y'all need to be putting a mask on. This fungus is gonna get in your lungs, dude.
Yeah. And so I'm wondering if that becomes like something later on, or if it's gonna be just kind of breezed over that you only get infected by bites or scratches or something. But big thumbs up from us at the Mick Pat show. Highly recommend. We're not going to do an episode by episode review, but we'll give you, just like we did with The Bear, a full season review once it's finished and we've seen it all. But yeah, thanks for joining us here. We had fun. Good beer. Or a good beverage. It's not technically beer. It's kind of beer. There's yeast in it, right? But go ahead, get yourself a can of the Boochcraft. Try them out. Try their flavors. The ginger lime one gets a good recommendation from us here, as well as, of course, the Last of Us TV show. Check it out. Let us know your thoughts. And we're looking forward to hearing from you. Till next time.
Till next time. Thanks for tuning in. If you love this episode, drop us a review. If you have qualms or comments, leave us a voicemail on our website. While you're there, check out our latest news, merch, and deals from our sponsors. Till next time, Ken.